Hi, I'm Kevin Michalowski, editor of Concealed Carry Magazine. I'm here with Matt Mallory from Laser Ammo, and Matt's going to show us how to install a resetting trigger in your Glock pistol so that the Glock pistol will work really well with any of the Laser Ammo products. Matt, why don't you just take it away? I'll step out of the way and show people how to do it.
Sounds good, sir. Thank you. I wanted to show you how to install our resetting trigger and also show you our TAS sight that I have installed on my Glock 30 here. Being a Glock armor, training counselor with the USCCA, I get a lot of people asking me how to install a resetting trigger, how easy is it really to do so? And it is actually fairly simple. I got it down to about 5 minutes install, 5 minutes reinstall of my regular trigger. You obviously can't use the resetting trigger while you're on the range shooting, so I want to make that perfectly clear. It's important that you know that you have to make sure there's no ammunition anywhere around while you're doing this, because it's very dangerous if you have ammunition anywhere in the vicinity of cleaning a gun, much less taking a gun apart like this. So let's get started. Remove the ammunition source. I always like to rack the slide back 3 or 4 times. Nothing in the breech, magazine's gone. At this point we've got to actually drop the sear, the firing pin, so that's why it's important not to have ammunition around, right? And just slowly pull back on the slide. You can see how I'm doing that. Just cradling it, so regular grip, I spin it up, I grab the sight, pull back lightly, don't have to pull back too far, and you're going to pull down on both sides evenly. Once you do that, simple as that, slide falls right off. Takes a little practice to get that down. Pull out the recoil spring, pull out the barrel. Okay, let's break into our box of goodies. So we have a firing pin assembly, trigger assembly, and then a spring that we're going to use that helps with that reset. So we've got a typical Glock punch. You can use any kind of punch. You're going to go right down underneath the firing pin lug right there, and you're going to push down. And when you do that, you got to hold that down and be able to slide the plate off the back. Don't let go of that because it is compressed. Once you do that, you can pop out your firing pin assembly. Set that off. What I usually like to do is set it off near the box or in the box so that I don't mix the two up. All right, let's get into the lower receiver. One of the things that I like to do is use a roll of tape. You can pretty much use anything, a box. You don't necessarily have to, but it has an opening here so you can punch down straight through and not have to have anything obstructing it. The 3 pins we're going to be popping out, the locking lug. We've also got the trigger pin and the trigger assembly pin back here, and also the back strap goes through the back straps. Just like that. The one for the trigger, I like to pull on the slide stop here. So that slide stop is what is hooked to this one, the bigger one. So what I usually do is just wiggle it a little bit as I'm pushing it on this pin. Takes a little finesse, a little finagling, but if you do that, you see how easy that pin just fell out. And that's because the grooves on this go through that pin. If you look at the pin, you can see they're grooved. And that's where that slide stop actually goes, right in those grooves. So by wiggling that, it allows it to get over those grooves. All right, and then the last one, pretty simple. There we go. Voila, our 3 pins. Putting them back in the same order, also as well as putting them back in the right pin in the right hole is important, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Pull out the locking lug, just like this, just prying it up. Okay, the whole trigger assembly, gonna pry that up lightly, pull that out as well. Once again, I'm setting that off with my firing pin assembly just so that it's all together. Now we go to the next spot, your resetting trigger. Now when you get it, it's going to have a zip tie wrapped around it. You simply just cut that with a pair of scissors or side cuts. You leave that together. Drop that in just like this. Okay. Locking block, just like that. Now I mentioned earlier there's a certain way to go in with this. Plastic on plastic. So these 2 pins are fairly similar. They look somewhat alike, but the way to tell is one's metal and one's plastic. That's metal, that's plastic. Okay, you can hear it and feel it. No, I wouldn't bend it too hard. Plastic on plastic. So you want this plastic one going in this back hole here. Okay. I usually use the back end of my punch to be able to just set that off. Set that in the hole. You want it even. So on this side you can see there's a little bit of a divot, and this side it's kind of flush. So what I'll do is just take the punch and just lightly level it out so it's a little more on this side. Okay, so we got that. And we want to do the metal pin first, and the reason for that is, and this metal pin actually locks in your locking block, You want that pin in first because you want the spring on the slide lock, you want this metal to be pushed down on that pin. When it slides over, you want it right underneath that. If you don't do it, you're going to have some issues. Put it back in the same exact way, so you're just dropping that right down into that channel, just like that. Okay, so now we're going to put the trigger pin in, and just like when you took it out, I usually hold the slide stop and just move it around a little bit so that it slides in pretty easily. Just like that. You might also have to put a little bit of pressure up on it. So there's a sphere. There we go. There's your lower, your slide. All right, so we're going to put the firing pin assembly in. And what we want to do is push down on the plunger so that we can get that to fall down into the channel there. See how it dropped in? Otherwise, it's only going to go that far and you're not going to be able to get the back plate back on. So make sure you push the plunger down and then just push that down into the channel. And once you have that, you want to make sure you put the spring in. Don't forget the spring or you won't have a fully functioning resetting trigger. You want to make sure it's straight. So what I'll usually do is, chances are it's going to fall on its side, which is not going to do what it needs to do. So I'll stick the punch in there into the spring and then just tip it up and then straighten it out. Makes it pretty easy. And at this point, you're going to push down the sleeve, and on the back of the plate, you want to make sure that the side with the circle is facing down. And I push down on it and push in on that plate like that. Now the fun part comes. If you don't do this right, you're going to have a plunger flying all over your room. So I usually will put pressure here, like I'm going to stab it, and I just push it down in like that, up against that punch, and then once I've got enough pressure on it, I slowly pull that punch out, and it pops on, just like that. Go ahead and put this back together. Barrel. Recoil spring. Make sure when you put the recoil spring in that you push it down into the lower notch here. There's supposed to be a gap in between. That gap in between is specifically for the slide lock, which is right here. So this slide lock, this piece of metal right here, the two pins that you pull down on when you take the slide off, that goes right up inside in between there. So you want to make sure you don't miss the rail, make sure you have it on there evenly. Once again, make sure it's pointed in the safe direction because now you have a fully functioning firearm. And there's your resetting trigger.
Matt, that looks really easy. Is it something that people can do at home, or should they always have a certified gunsmith or someone to work on this for?
Yeah, a gunsmith or a Glock armor or a Glock advanced armor is not a bad idea, but it is something somebody can do if they feel comfortable with it.
Comes with great instructions, easy to use?
In the box, yes sir.
Outstanding. If you want to get your resetting trigger for a Glock pistol, just click on the link associated with this page and order yours today.